the amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening, and happy Sunday. I'm Crystal Gunn, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. And thank you so much for joining us. So while you're getting settled in for the show, hit the share button, share Amazing Women Speak so your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. And Amazing Women Speak is sponsored by the Amazing Woman Network, which was created to unite and empower women globally, focusing on the core pillars of reclaiming and owning our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming and owning our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. So visit us on the web at amazingwoman, WOMAN, network.com. Asking for what we want, whether it's help, opportunities, or compensation, it all can feel so intimidating, right? So fear of rejection, appearing vulnerable, or being seen as a failure often holds us back. But courage begins where fear ends. And remember, whether it's negotiating a salary, asking for help, or seeking guidance, you are worthy of asking. So let's talk about it today, the courage to ask. So Michele is traveling, so won't be joining us, but we definitely wish her safe travels and know that she is doing great things while she's on there and causing good trouble. So let's just skip to bringing in our guest for today. Terri, come on in and introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, Crystal. Good to see you. I'm Terri Faison, and I'm very excited to be here today to join you. I am the founder of Casablanca Dry, which is Detroit's first non-alcoholic bar. As well, I'm a 25-year HR professional, so I do HR consulting under the name of TRIUTY Consulting.
Welcome. Can't wait to hear more about you and share it with our viewers. Miss Charlotte, please come in and introduce yourself.
Hello, good evening, Crystal. Hi, Terri. My name is Charlotte Brown. I am from London. I live in London. I work in tech, so primarily to do with consumer marketing and consumer goods, where I've worked for the past 20 or so years. So I'm very excited to be here, to be part of this incredible podcast. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. I'm super excited about it. As Michele always says, this is the fastest hour of your day. So we don't have a whole lot of time to deal in shallow water. I encourage our listeners to chime in and post your comments, questions, concerns, add to this conversation. It makes for a more robust one, and we love to get you all involved. So, Terri, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
What was happening, right? When you realized that you needed to ask for help, but most importantly, how long did it take before you said, I'm not going to be able to do this without asking for help?
Well, embarrassingly enough, it was very recent. So been living this life for a long time. And it was probably within the last 2 to 3 years where I realized that you gotta be able to open your mouth and just ask the question. And there's a lot surrounding why that wasn't happening. You know, there's the whole super mom, super woman, super everything mentality that you assume that you're supposed to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you have to be independent at all times. You have to do everything at all times. You have to be all everything to everyone. So asking for help would not seem to fit into that framework until it needs to.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes until it's almost too late, right? we keep holding off. We don't ask. We don't ask. And I want to come back to that because you said some very interesting things. That whole independent woman thing that runs rampant, especially with Black women. But Charlotte,
Yeah.
same question to you. When is it that you realized that you needed to ask for help? And how long did it take you to actually do the thing?
I would say that my need to ask for help has been probably throughout my adult life. However, I have not done it. And it's only in the last year, if I'm very honest with myself, that I am finally getting the courage to start asking for that help. And serendipitously, it's actually kicked off from me finding this podcast last year, and you had so many interesting subjects that hit home with me, and it started to lead me to actually reflect and say I need to take that step to ask. And that's what prompted me to kick off a conversation with Crystal, as it happens, 2 weeks ago, to start actually looking at some very specific things that I know I need help with. So being aware of it years ago did not really lead me to actually do something about it. And I would say that's because, very much to some of the points Terri has mentioned, we're not taught how to, who to go to. It's not been part of the framework in my growing up. So it's been a bit of a loss for me to know how to do it. So I'm very lucky that at least now I'm starting the journey rather than continue to putting it off.
So it's amazing that we often talk a lot about the socialization and how we've been conditioned to do a certain things in the Black community. And a lot of times that independent woman thing, like I would do workshops and these, I do financial workshops, right? And I would do financial workshops in a room full of women. And I would say, raise your hand if you are, or if you claim to be an independent woman, right? Everybody in the workshop would raise their hand. And I would say, like, look around. You're wearing it as if it's a badge of honor, but it's not, right? Because it keeps us burnt out. It keeps us alone. It keeps us isolated. It keeps us stressed out, right? Where we and Terri, you're shaking your head because why? So why are you shaking your head? Yes, like that.
I mean, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We want to be these independent individuals. We want people to look upon us as strong and, superior leader. But then we don't really embrace techniques that we might not have necessarily been trained in our community on how to be those leaders, how to be strong. There's different ways, like with I was just saying this yesterday, there's lots of ways to skin a cat. We were talking about that idiom. So I just don't think that we always knew the techniques that could have been helpful to us to still be strong, still be a leader, but have support. Support is a big word.
Support is a huge word. And there's that saying that teamwork makes the dream work. Like,
absolutely.
It takes a village, right? We could go on and pull out some more of those, but it's really, really, really important. Charlotte, what would you think the number one thing that kept you from asking for help? What do you think that was?
For me, I think it was fear of embarrassment, if I can be very honest, because when you are seen as being independent, I'm a very well-educated woman. I have an MBA. I've raised my daughter. I own my home. So when you have to then take the step to maybe ask for help, it's embarrassing because you feel like you're missing something or you haven't done something right. However, what I've realized now is I'm actually not an expert at many things, and I cannot be. So why am I not going to those who are experts in very specific areas to ask for their help? So I would say that was the number one thing stopping me, was embarrassment. Yeah.
Terri, how about you?
So this is a great discussion because I'll tell you, when I told you I would talk to you about this topic, I told you that because I knew that I was struggling with this topic. And I'm like, I'm going to hold myself accountable by talking about it. So with that, I took the time to actually think about those things that, are preventing me from asking, right? And so it's really 4 things: showing sign of weakness. I want to say that I did it because I think that I do it the best. I want to own the results. And if someone asks me about it, I want to be able to speak firsthand about how it happened. And so those have been the reasons why I felt like I had to always do everything.
Okay. I do want to circle back to those reasons because those are powerful reasons, right? And I know people are like, oh my God, yeah, that's the thing. But what did not asking cost you?
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was the first time that, not the first time, but I had a service person do something that I probably could have done, right? But I just didn't have time and I needed it to be done in a certain way. And the service person was doing it. And I'm like, oh, wow, you really know how to do that. I'm glad I asked you to do that. And he looked and he said, well, I'm a professional. Why would you have done this? And I said, oh, well, because I can do it. But it was like the struggle. Why wouldn't I let the professional do the work that he was trained to do? So it's this whole concept of having the ability to just cover all the bases. Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah. If I can add to your point about the cost of not asking, I think we would be, well, let me make it about myself. I would be in a much better position if I had taken steps 10 years ago to be asking for some of the help, especially around financial planning and making better financial decisions and choices. So although I appear to have my stuff together, I don't. And that is the reality. And I kick myself because I think that, I'll be fine in 10 years time because I'm going to keep working hard and getting better jobs. But I keep getting there and I'm still treading water. So the cost is we're actually delaying putting the right foundations in place for ourselves and for our families. I have a daughter who's 26. I want to do better now so that I can encourage her to start taking the right steps now and not wait until she's my age.
And that's one of those things I often talk about in the things that we pass down generationally, right? And the legacies that we leave. Everybody's leaving a legacy. You got to determine what kind of legacy that you want to leave. And when you mention your daughter, I have a daughter that's 23. It's like, am I teaching her not to ask?
Yes.
Right. And so then now we're creating a whole nother generation of Black women who won't ask for the help that we need. And we can't get further along because we're still trying to be the strong Black woman and the independent Black woman that's keeping us, again, right, burnt out, angry, mad. And then oftentimes we'll say, these people know I need help, whoever these people may be. And they won't offer. And then you feel a certain kind of way because they don't offer to help you, but they don't know what kind of help you need. And all you had to do was ask.
Yes.
I remember being like, when I tell my financial story and why I do so much of what I do, I can remember if I needed some money and I would go ask my dad. I'm gonna ask my dad because my dad's gonna say yes, right? I'm a daddy's girl. He's gonna say yes. And anytime he said yes. But what he would say to me was, go ask your mom to write you a check for the money. I would be like, oh my God, I don't want it. And she would do it, no issue, but I didn't want to ask mom because who knows why, right? Really no justification. But asking I think it brings a lot of freedom. I saw a video of a guy and he was explaining this whole thing about asking, right? And one of the things that he said was he told a story of a friend of his who he hadn't talked to in a while, and the friend calls him and he was like, well, where you been? I haven't talked to you. You know, you haven't reached back out to me. And the friend said, oh, I've been going through some things, had some trouble and have been going through some things. And he asked his friend, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you let me know? And the friend said, well, because I didn't want to bother you. And the guy got angry and he said, how dare you be so selfish that you will not allow me to help you in your time of need? And I thought that was a really, really powerful statement, because we often think, well, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to, you know, you're busy, you're doing whatever. People say that to me all the time. Crystal, you're busy. I didn't want to call. And I'm like, but you called and in 5 minutes, we solved the problem, or I connected you to the person that you needed. Why is it that we won't give people the opportunity, right, to help us? Like you said, Charlotte, you know, 5 years later, 10 years later, it's cost you all of this time, energy, money, trying to figure it out so that you can own the results, Terri.
Right. Right. And then what does that all do for you?
And okay, and so how did you come up with those things? You gave a list, and that was a powerful list, right? So
Yeah.
let's go back to the first one. What was the first one? Was weakness.
Yeah. Don't show any weakness. If you ask for help, you show weakness, right?
And because what? We as these strong Black women can't show weakness.
Strong Black women. We have to be able to do it all. And it's most of my hesitations around asking questions and these particular reasons why I wouldn't, it really stemmed from my experience in the corporate environment. Because, you know, here you are, you know, and at the time joined a large company, young African-American female, trying to really climb the ladder, you know, have to show myself as, you know, diligent, independent, intelligent. I have to be above and beyond everybody else in order to continue climbing. And it was working, right? I mean, so I was doing what I needed to do. So along that path, no one's going to hand out, you know, help cards. So then if they're not handing them out, you're not asking for them, right? So then when you do get help, you don't really recognize it sometimes. And so you keep on going and struggling on your own, staying late hours, getting stressed out, looking crazy, you know, getting the whole, you know, corporate frazzle. And all along, you're like, I need to be able to do this. I need to say I did it. I need to be able to own the results. When they ask me how you did this, I need to be able to say how I did it. So a lot of those reasons really stem from that environment. And I think that's spilled over into everything. And so I had to like uncondition myself from that mindset because it happens.
So opening Casablanca dry.
Yes.
How many times did this spill over and cause a delay?
Well, we started in 2018.
Okay.
And we opened in 2024. And, you know, a lot of that was because of not asking for help. Now that, to me, was a little bit of everything. Those reasons around not asking for help was not necessarily what I mentioned before, but it was not knowing how to ask, not knowing how to ask, who to ask, what to ask, and you know, just trying to bootstrap and get it done on my own in an environment that I really wasn't familiar with. So,
which is all the more reason why you need to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We try to navigate these waters that are unfamiliar, and we try to figure it out. And really, sometimes when you're trying to figure a thing out, you're not failing, you are failing forward. You do have to figure some things out, right? But some things, you know, this is not my lane. I just need to ask for some help. And it's difficult. Charlotte, when did you learn, or how did you learn to not ask for help?
From my childhood. So I did not have a traditional family growing up. I didn't grow up with my mum. I was actually born in Ghana, West Africa, and I was with my grandmother until I came to London at the age of 5. I was with my mum for a period of about 5-6 years, and then moved away from living with her for reasons that I won't share now. So I did not have that traditional family setup of having trusted family members to ask. And so the people that I grew up with, I knew they weren't family. So that held me back from having an environment where I felt I could ask, because they were not my family members. And later on, as I've grown up, I think that's carried through, and that's obviously served me in some respects in terms of making me have that independent spirit. However, the not asking, I think, is also from the time I've had with my mother. She never asked for help. I've seen the follow through of behaviors with her that I've seen with myself, and that, I think, fundamentally is the where it arises from for me, because I don't have a family background of people to lean on. And also, I think throughout my adult life, when I've been in relationships where I have asked for help with the partner I've been with at the time, it has then become a noose around my neck. That's the term I use. And then I feel like, oh my God, how have I put myself in this position? So that then completely makes me recoil and never want to do it again. So those experiences of not having a framework, a pattern from childhood or trusted family members, and then in relationships where asking for help has been given, but the conditions come later. It's not spelled out. It becomes something that becomes a bit of an emotional blackmail. And that was quite tough to deal with. So yeah, they are the patterns that I think I learned throughout my adulthood. And it's only in the last probably 5 years that I've started to recognize these things, and I've started to work on doing things differently. So
I believe that we are here in this life at this time, to break those patterns, to break those generational curses so that it doesn't pass down to the next generation, right? And in that, it takes a strong woman, but not strong in that independent way where I don't want help. I don't want to tell somebody. I I lead with finances because that's the thing that I do. And I have clients who will call and they will say, it's the excuses that they want to give. And I'm not using the word excuses in a bad way, but just the reason why things are the way that they are with their finances. And, and I could tell someone else how to do a thing, or I could, back 20 years ago, or when I was younger, I was really, really good at finances, and they would have all of these things and they would say, but I can't figure this out today. I can't figure out how to get out of this situation. And, it's always, yeah, I've been scared or embarrassed to call, or, you've been on my mind for so long to call and to reach out, but I don't know why I can't do this thing for myself. And I always say, you want to know why you can't do it for yourself? And I say, yeah. And I said, because you're standing in the middle of it. You're standing in the middle of it, right? You can't see the way out of it. I don't care if it's a mist or a torrential downpour. You're in the middle of it. And from your business to financial hardship, you are working at this point in survival mode. You can't figure the best way out of it. You got to ask for help, because those people that are not in that storm, they can come guide you out of it with ease. We make things harder than they have to be out of out of fear. And so I tell a lot of my story, especially when someone's calling because they need financial help. And here's what happens. And I can see it happen in other areas of people's lives, right? They come when it's a fire,
Mm.
right? So now it's a 4-alarm fire. Where had you come when you first started having thoughts, questions, issues, it wouldn't have gotten to the 4-alarm fire. And now, because this is now a 4-alarm fire, there's 4, 5, 6 other things that are building up to that fire,
Yes.
right? So, Terri, what were the other things that they weren't 4-alarm yet, but they were getting there until you asked, until you had the courage to ask for help.
Yeah. Repeat the question again. I'm
I
sorry.
said,
I was so busy thinking about my fires here.
and that's really what the question
Like, okay, what's Crystal's number? I'm calling her on Monday.
like, what were those things? Like, what were the other things that you were experiencing? Because it's always things. What were those other things that you were going through that, okay, I won't ask for this, but now all of this other stuff is bubbling up because I won't even ask for help for this. What was happening?
Whew, it's endless. So I think I finally, I can't even say when, before I left my last company, I finally got a handle on how to ask for, the people that worked for me to do what they were supposed to do and to be firm about it. Like, I used to even be like kind of wavering on that. No, this is your assignment. You need to do it, period. So once I finally got that on lock, then I was able to say, okay, well, what else do I need to do to be successful, to get to, to achieve things? And where else can people help? Where else do people have expertise that I don't, like the contractor? So that's when I had to start looking for the experts. It's not always me. And so I think I started to manage that in the work setting. So then I was able to take that into my home setting. Now, I will tell you, and I thought about this when Charlotte mentioned where she was from. Probably 20 years ago, I had a friend and we were both raising our young babies together. And she is from Nigeria. And so we were both working in the manufacturing industry, long hours, we're pregnant, women in the labor relations arena is very, very limited. But we had these small babies and we worked all these hours. And she says, well, I'm going to just get my au pair could do this. And I said, au pair? What is that? Oh, it's like a nanny and they come into your house and they live there and they can get dinner ready and get the kids ready. And by the time you get home, everything's all settled. And I said, well, do they live with you? Oh, yeah. She's like, oh, okay. She said, well, if you don't want help, then, you won't get it. You got to ask for help. And I talked to her and I'm like, wow. So we broke down and got an au pair. Now that was the most unconventional thing I've ever done in my entire life. And when I say we forgot about that person living in our house about 2 days after she got there, it was like, you don't have to leave ever, do you? Like there's no way we could have made it through that period without some type of support. So I will say that my friend Michele helped me to get over that first barrier of getting help. It was like a crisis. It was a fire, like you said. We had to do something different. So that was probably a small little feat for me to get past that asking help moment. And then, over time, I started looking for other ways to get help where we needed it with child, with the kids. And, when my mother was around, she was always, helpful. So that started to be more of a connection that I would make with other people to do things differently and get help for the kids. And, when you couldn't be present, try to get others to be present. So it was an evolution. So I've been working on it, little by little over the years.
Some years ago, someone said, not asking for help is a form of self-sabotage. And it hit hard because by nature, I am one of those independent people right? And I have to work hard at asking for the help just because I can figure a lot of stuff out. But then when I look at time, right, it becomes part of time management as well. Right? Like that's really, really huge. And how do I move this project along? Oh, get somebody to do the thing that they're the expert in.
Yes.
and life becomes a whole lot easier and moves more rapidly. The project gets done. And here's the crazy thing. We won't ask for help from the experts when the expert expects you to ask for help. They're not looking at you like you're weak because you asked for help.
No.
They're waiting for you.
Because that's what they do, right? That's whatever the field is, they're the expert in the thing. That's what they do. So I think the other part of we as women, as we then stop these practices so that they don't get carried on to the next generation, um, how are we setting up and what are we teaching to our children
Mm.
so that they don't, so that they ask, so that they don't feel like, especially if we are raising women, so that they don't take on that independent Black woman thing. Charlotte, what type of conversations, if any, are you having with your daughter now about asking, having the courage to ask?
So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in a 15-year relationship that came to an end. And I think that was a catalyst for a lot of things for myself and also for my daughter. So during that phase of decoupling, finances, home, etc., I actually had to ask some close friends for help to sort out the financial arrangements and, you know, the advice on how to maneuver that whole situation so that I could be in the right position for me and my daughter. So during that stage, I actually did share with her that I was asking very close friends for help because I needed it at that time, so that she was aware that I wasn't somehow miraculously solving this really challenging time of finishing a long-term relationship, which affected both of us, you know, changes in the home environment. So she was aware. So that was the first part. Secondly, I also knew I needed counseling for myself, for a whole raft of things, not just the relationship, I think for my own kind of peace of mind. And I shared that with her. So this is again something that I wanted her to be aware of, that I felt I needed that for my own well-being and to really deal with, you know, coming out of that relationship and everything that, you know, had been within me for years, but I hadn't really worked on. So I shared that with her and I encouraged her, because obviously she had been part of that 15-year relationship, to consider if she felt it would be beneficial for her to also do counseling. Obviously, she's now a young adult, so I can't force her. But by me taking that step and sharing it with her, she's become aware that, oh, okay, actually, you know, mum's done this and I've done that. So that's how I'm now having those conversations with her, by me demonstrating and being more transparent with the things I'm doing. Whereas in the past, I would not have shared those things. And I've been very transparent with her about the fact that I've ended up taking on a lot of extra debt as a result of that relationship coming to an end. But it was for us to get to a particular position. So when I can't do things, I explain to her now it's because of this. Whereas in the past, that would have been part of the shame and embarrassment, would be to say these things to her. But now I'll say to her, this is why I can't do X, Y, Z. And now that she's an adult, she's working, she still lives at home with me. You know, we're relatively comfortable, but I ask her for help at times to say, okay, I need you to contribute a bit more in this space, so she understands. So these are the small steps that I'm now taking with her. And I want to evolve that so that as she starts to get into the path of being standing on her own 2 feet in due course, I want her to have that confidence to come to me and say, oh, I need help with X, Y, Z. And I can see that coming out slowly. One quick example, she's been working for a few years since she finished her degree, and she wanted to buy her first car for herself. You know, she came to me and we discussed, you know, how she could make that happen. And we looked at the options. You know, she did some research and I also did some, and I was able to guide her. And I thought that was a really positive step for her to have come, for us to make that decision and choice that was right for her, rather than go and do something without really understanding the pros and cons of buying a first car. So slowly, I hope that the conversations with her will start to take root and evolve from there.
So when you were explaining the issues and the things that were going on, right? The extra debt and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Did she love you less?
No.
Right? She probably was extremely supportive.
Yes, I think what I realized is prior to sharing these things with her, because I was holding back, I was inadvertently expecting her to support me in a way that she obviously didn't know because I wasn't expressing to her. So it's really this bizarre dynamic of me feeling. And I remember taking this to my therapist at the time. Oh, my daughter's not doing this. She's not doing this. Like, but have you told her what's going on with you? And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. It's like, so how is she going to know? And there's not much she can do, but she will understand where things are for you right now, even if she can't do much practically. So that was a real learning from, taking myself through that counseling to say, actually, you need to share so she knows rather than keep it in and then you expect from her, but she doesn't know what's going on.
Which can put strain on the relationship.
Yes.
Because you're expecting something. And that's not just with kids, it's with friends, because you talked about asking your friends for help. It's that same thing. If someone doesn't know,
yes,
right? And then you start feeling a certain kind of way because they're not helping you. Well, whose fault is that really? Like, who's to blame or who's to be held accountable for? And so we create these stories in our head. Well, if I ask this person, you then go down all of the list of the things. But what are they going to say? Are they going to hold it against me? Are they going to hold it over my head? Are they going? And I think I'm a firm believer in if someone is your friend or a loved one, what's the saying? You see who your real friends are when you're going through some trouble or whatever. Because if you're going through a thing or you need some help and you're not helping me, and I've told you, I've asked you, and you still don't ask me.
Yeah.
Are you really my friend, or are you just watching for my downfall?
Can I add a very small story? The funny thing with me is I love going to flea markets and haggling. I'm so good at doing that. And my motto is, if you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right.
Yet in those completely random scenarios, I'll freely, literally ask for the most ridiculous price on things with a cheeky smile. And it's like, you can only say no. It's like, okay. So I do that so easily in those situations, but then in the things that really matter, why have I not done that same thing of, if you don't ask, you don't get? So I just thought that was quite a little funny thing that I've managed to start applying in my real world.
Wow.
So, Terri, what has asking gotten you?
Ooh, a level of freedom that I've needed a long time ago. The opportunity for people to do what they do best. And you can appreciate them for it and then refer them, or tell somebody else to ask them to do that for them. I mean, it's tremendous when you can step outside of your head and ask for the support or the help that you need. And I think for me, it had to be something that. This actually occurred after my mom passed. Someone told me, they said, you are not going to be able to do everything by yourself. So just get that out of your head. You're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. So therefore, give people assignments. And I was at that point, I was spent. I was like, you know what? I will. I wrote a list. I did a spreadsheet. My mother used to do spreadsheets. I did a spreadsheet. I had all the things I needed to do, and I wrote down the people's names who could do those things. And I think one person was unable to do it, but like 30 people did 30 different things that I did not have to worry about doing. It was a level of freedom that I personally needed at that point. And so I'm like, well, if I've done it for this, I could do that all the time. So it's, you just have to trust yourself that you're making a good decision by getting someone to help you. It's like a mind game, very much a mind game.
We create these stories again in our head. I remember talking to I I don't I do very little financial strategy in therapy because a lot of it is therapy with men. Men just operate differently in that
Okay.
they do, and it's okay, but they just operate differently. And but this one man, um, I was speaking with, and this was like some business consulting though, but he had this one business, and then, but he had these other two that could like rapidly bring in revenue. And this third one, like, was draining. It was draining money. He wasn't making any money for it. And I said, well, why not just put this one on pause for a minute? You can just stop it and come back to it, but you can build these other two. And then when things change and whatever, you can go back to it. And he was like, no, I can't. I can't put that one on pause. And I said, well, why not? And he says, well, because I talk about that business and people know that I have that business. And I said, so you're going to keep doing this business that's costing you and not making you because of what somebody else would think about you putting that business on pause? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, sir, they're not even thinking about you like that though. Right? You create this stuff in your head, in your mind. Well, they're going to think these certain things about me when they're not even thinking about you in reality to that level. And so we get stuck in our own heads. And so to be able to put that spreadsheet together and say, you know what, I'm asking for the doggone help because I can't get through this thing without doing it. Charlotte, what has asking for help gained you?
So when I asked some very close friends of mine during my separation, they helped me in very practical ways, and I was able to reorganize my finances so that I could stay in the home for me and my daughter, which was obviously huge because we could not, I didn't want us to go through the trauma of moving home and everything that would involve. So that really made all the difference. And one other key thing, as Terri was talking, so over the last few years, as things have settled down, when I want to get a bit of spare money, we have a spare room in our home. We're lucky enough to have that. So there's a college nearby where they bring in foreign students who want to come and stay in London for a week, 2 weeks, or a month. So I had the conversation with my daughter to say, hey, I think it would be great for me to be able to get some extra income as and when it fits us in terms of, the time of the year, etc. Would you help me for us to do this together? And to my surprise, she was really up for it. So she organizes the menu for the week when we have students, or 2 weeks or however long, and she organizes the shopping. So I take care of, obviously I do the cooking, because that's what you do. It's a homestay experience, and they're young adults, so they're not children. So they're in our home. We tell them about London life and obviously bits about culture, etc. And it's been so endearing the way she really threw herself into it. And, I just wasn't expecting that. So it's been a really nice thing that we now do once or twice a year. And it's just a bit of fun. We get to meet students, they meet our home. So that's the difference. It kind of brings me and my daughter closer together because we kind of do this thing together. She will not let me touch the menu. It's her domain, which is great. So here's the great things of what asking has brought to mine in her life. Yes.
And through some of that, it's probably, I would imagine, and based off the way that I see you smile when you talk about it, I'm sure it's brought you all together differently, but creating a deeper bond between the two of you.
Definitely. And because she's now a young adult, I discuss with her, So it's about her work routine, and also, you know, she gives me the boundaries to say, okay, no males, we only want to take females, particular age. So we kind of do it together because it's our family home. So yeah, that's definitely really helped. And I trust her, so I don't question, you know, the things that she suggests for the menus, because, you know, she's like, oh, how old are they? Okay, I think they might like these sorts of things. So yeah, it's definitely brought us closer in that respect. Yeah, and when she has time and she chooses to cook as well, she loves it. So I let her take the reins in what the things that I think she's comfortable to do, without me kind of feeling like I'm the one telling her. So that's been really great for both of us.
I love that. I love it. I
It
love it.
builds some unique memories too for both of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, and again, you are, in doing that, you are stopping that this unwillingness or fear of asking won't be passed down to those other generations. And I think that's really huge. I believe we're in this life for healing, right? And to get to that next level. And then situations arise in order for us to be able to learn the lesson, right? To learn the lesson. And we keep repeating the thing until we learn the lesson, and we keep bumping our heads because we won't ask for help. And once we start asking for help, right, life becomes a little different. So there's someone out there listening, or that will watch this on the replay, that's struggling in whatever situation it is, and they need some help. Terri, what would you say to them, um, or how would you encourage them to ask, and why?
I would say start some new traditions, because the generational traditions of my history didn't necessarily serve me well. I mean, no one ever wants to hear anyone say that, but that's just the truth. So yeah, I actually like to cook, but I don't like to clean. I don't want to do everything. I want to get help. I want to pay people to do stuff, and I'm okay with that. So it's okay to have a new tradition. We don't have to be these super women that our mothers and our mothers' mothers and our grandmothers and our ancestors were. They were, I don't want to say the word badasses, but they were that in their own way. But they also had support networks that were very different than what we have right now.
Right.
My family, when they moved here from Mississippi, it was 14 of them living in one house. So they had built-in support.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they were able to thrive and be independent, because they were all there together. Their support network was right there. We're very different now. We're all spread across the world. So we have to look at where we stand and what positions we're in, and, how we're, situated, and determine what works best for us based on what we have and where we are. So new traditions. And guess what? This is like, the 2000s. So it's about time to have some new traditions and, write some new history, because I heard old history is going away anyway. So let's write some new history and be known for something new that we blaze the trail to do for our young people, for our young women, for our young men. It's okay to do it differently. Don't be afraid, because guess what? If it doesn't work, you just do it another way.
You figure out something else, and you keep figuring it out until you elevate. Charlotte, what would you tell the person who's struggling to ask for help?
More often than not, people are willing to help, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. And I would also say that be open to the fact that where somebody is unable to help, they may have a suggestion to say, I'm not able to on this occasion, but I know somebody that could, offer guidance or support in some shape or form. So be open to those suggestions and ideas as well. And I guess it depends on the nature of the help you need, but be open to it. And take advantage of the professionals, because that's what they're trained to do, and don't hold yourself back because you think that you're letting yourself down by actually making it be known that you need that support. So yeah, ask.
I really think you do yourself a disservice when you don't ask for the help. You wind up, and in some instances, I think it's, we talk about being that strong Black woman. I think it's, when you talk about strength, I think you look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, I am strong because I ask.
Yes.
That's part of a strength, to be able to ask and be vulnerable, right? To get to a place. It's not easy, but what you're going through is not easy either. So with asking somebody for some assistance, some advice, how they can walk you through a process, it gets you out of this place that isn't easy and isn't comfortable. We talk about that comfort zone, and I always say your comfort zone isn't comfortable. It's just what you know. So if we know struggle, if we know survival, if we know trying to do it ourselves for this list of reasons, weakness, I want to own the result. Isn't owning the result, does that come from a place of your ego talking, Terri?
I do think it does. Yeah. Why do you have to own the result? It is. Yeah. I think that's a lot of ego. And then depending on the situation, you might be trying to prove something to somebody else. Again, like you mentioned before, it shouldn't be important to anyone other than you.
I think, to Crystal's point, we have forgotten that it takes a village, and obviously the village members have changed in the modern times we're in, as you said.
Mhm.
We just have to find who makes up our new village now, in terms of all the different pieces that we need support with, be it au pair for childcare, be it cleaning with the home, whatever it might be. You find your new collective to make that village form to help. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that I really want to instill in my daughter, that she finds her people going forward, and make use of other people's talents.
It's that tribe, trying to find your tribe. And we talk about often that people sometimes, are around you, but they're not necessarily around you to help see you grow, see you blossom. And so
Mhm.
also it gives you an opportunity to weed through those individuals. It's like, who are the people that you talk to the most, right? And if you have something that you're trying to accomplish, be it build a business, or if it's some sort of hardship that you're trying to get through, if the people that you talk to the most can't assist you, or you feel like you can't even ask them, then the question becomes, why do you spend so much time talking to them?
Mm.
Right? You got to reassess the people that are around you, but you first have to reassess you. You got to go back and think, what is going on with me that I don't feel like I can ask someone? And that's the thing in you that you need to change. That's you're going through the process because there's something in you that needs to change, right? And if you don't examine you throughout the process, how do you then get to that next level? How do you elevate in order to be able to do that thing?
Right.
Yes. I was going to add, I think as Black women, the whole thing of independence and being strong, we also put up facades. I think we cannot forget that. And some of that facade is about not being seen as, oh, you can't do that. How come? Because you're held up to, oh, you're supposed to have it all together. So one thing that I started doing last year, I've got a group of friends, we like to eat out and stuff. And when I don't have the means at that point in time to do something, I say, I'm really sorry, I can't afford to go out and have that meal now. Or if you want to go on a trip and I'm not able to, I will now say that, because to your point, Crystal,
Mhm.
if your friends are truly your friends, they're not going to look on you and say, oh, why can't you do it? they'll reconsider or wait, or you'll find alternatives. So that's the other thing that I have started to practice, because before I would have literally found a way, put it on a credit card, and it's like, not doing that anymore. I'm going to say I cannot afford it. And when we're doing things and somebody wants to do business class, I said, you go for it. I'll just go. You guys call it coach, you call it economy. I don't have to say pay double the price. I'll still get to the destination. I'll still have fun. It's okay. And I'm accepting that now, to say I don't have to pretend to do that. If you can afford it at this moment right now, I can't. One day when I'm able to again, fine. But I'm not going to be shy or embarrassed, as I started off with, by saying I cannot do that right now, because I'm not doing it to hold up an image with anyone in my life. And yeah, maybe that's another thing that we also ignore as Black women. We do that a lot as well, I believe.
And it's such a freedom to just be able to say, yeah, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just like, just to be honest and true. It's such a freedom in that, because you don't have to continue to wear the mask and put up this facade like everything is okay, because that's heavy too.
Yes.
Like that's, so here's my challenge to people out there. Get with your tribe. Brunch, just at the house, whatever it is, and have a what do you need session. Just have a what do you need session.
I love that. Love that.
Like, what do you need? I used to be part of this business networking group, and that was one of the steps in it. Like, people got a chance to talk about their business, but it was, what's your business and what do you need? And it was the hardest thing for people to say what they needed. And I was like, everybody in here is a business owner. We all need something, right? So yeah, get with your girls, get with your tribe, and just have a what do we need session.
That's
and
great.
See who can fulfill a need for, because if the people in the room can't fulfill the need for you, they have contacts of people that can fulfill the need for you, that can help you in that area. Closed mouths don't get fed. We have to ask. Charlotte, you are all the way across the water. And I was gonna say, how can people contact you? But yeah, how can people contact you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's probably the best option for me, because I work with social media. I'm not a big person. I'm not on Instagram and Twitter and all those things, but LinkedIn works. So I think I shared that with you. So happy for that to be added.
Yep, and that link is down in the description for the video. Miss Terri, tell us a little bit about Casablanca Dry and how people can come over there and support you.
Okay. Well, Casablanca Dry is open for business. We are testing the waters on hours this winter, because the winter's been rough. I'll just be honest. But Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays are our primary days. We focus on private events. So, but we do have just open hours. But we're right on Gratiot in Detroit. If you're in the Detroit area, if you want to come across the water from Windsor, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Casablanca Dry. And we also have a website, which I don't know if I gave that to you. But yeah, we are enjoying the space and enjoying the events and activities. We have something coming up. We have a live band coming up on Blackout Friday. So another fun activity.
What is Blackout Friday?
Oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it on the air. But
I know what it is. I got you. I remember what it is. I remember. There was an interesting story about why you picked that location and why you decided to do that. Can you share that story?
Oh, sure. Well, that's a long story. We only have like 1 minute, but
the brief version.
The brief version. So my father owned the bar for years. After he passed, I had to, do something. But that area was kind of like declining in terms of just the environment. And I really just didn't feel like that area needed another bar. I felt like it needed something more upbeat, lively, and different. And then I started researching non-alcoholic spirits. and found out that it was on the rise. And I said, well, I already got a space. Let's try this. We don't have one in Detroit. Let's do something new. And so that's kind of the short version. And here we are.
I love that. I love that. I thank
Yep.
you both for joining us today, for your transparency, for being vulnerable enough to share your story. Somebody got better today listening to how you overcame and decided to ask, and the impact that asking has had on your business, on your personal lives, on your relationships with your family. It's not easy. We carry and wear a lot of hats as Black women. We need all of the help that we can get. I love this so this younger generation, and those things where, the saying, well, I'm just a girl. It's like, and the fact that they don't have a problem with asking, and I think it's something that we can learn from as well and
Mhm.
build on that. So yeah, thank you all for sharing your stories. We come on here and have these type of conversations in order to uplift, encourage, motivate other Black women, and so that they can say, I'm going through that same thing, and seeing somebody who's going through those same things and actually say, okay, they made it through. And what they're saying, I didn't try. Let me try those things. So I thank you so much for that. I am Crystal Gunn. I am a Black woman. And I absolutely own my amazing. Miss Charlotte, you want to give us some last words?
So I'm Charlotte Brown. I'm proud as a Black woman to own my amazing.
Miss Terri?
I am Terri Denise Faison, and I am a Black woman, and I am really excited to own my amazing.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. One last thing before we get out of here. On this show, we often talk about journaling as a tool, and how powerful it is, right? So something that the Amazing Woman Network started a few weeks ago was Amazing Reflections for Her. And her is an acronym for Heal, Empower, and Rise. So each Monday, we share thought-provoking journaling prompts on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok to help us release past wounds and embrace healing, step into our confidence and power, and build a legacy of success, wealth, and impact. So tomorrow will be the fourth journaling prompt. So follow us on the social media platform of your choice, and understanding that this is more than a journaling campaign. It's a movement, y'all, for transformation. And it's encouraging every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing individually and collectively as it was established at birth. So I definitely hope that you join in on that. Please find Amazing Women Speak on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Spotify. Whatever your platform, like and subscribe, turn notifications on so that you don't miss an episode. And then take a look at the past episodes. Look at the topics and find those that speak to your soul. I promise you, you will find a bunch of them. And then share those with someone that you know. We all need love. We all need healing. We all need inspiration. And I think we do that really well with this show. So share it with your tribe. Get them in on this process and on this journey as well. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you to the newcomers and to those who tune in each week. We definitely love and appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next Sunday for another episode of Amazing Women Speak. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Amazing week.
Bye.